Welcome back to the show. This is more of a response video. I remember reading that when they were making the TV show Andor, Disney told the producers, creators, that streaming was dead and there was no more money in it. Now, do you believe streaming is dead? Now, streaming does have some problems, Now, let's talk about it. One is the cost is going up. The cost keeps going up. I remember when these channels first started. Oh, they were only $5.99, and you get all these movies and all these TV shows for just $5.99 at the cost of the internet. But they keep going up. You can't be $5.99 in January, and then $8.99 in October, and then $12.99 in December. People have a budget, and they're going to stick to it. So what they're going to do is they're going to start eliminating some of these channels, and that's what has actually happened. Another thing is they're not getting any new subscribers. Now, I thought about that when I first got some of these streaming channels. You're going to get up to this level right here, and then it's going to flatline. You're going to have to wait till some of these people get out of high school and get a job. Only so many people can have some of these streaming channels. You're not going to get an increase next month. Most people have the channels they want, and they don't want any more or can't afford it. Another thing is some of these programs, they jump from one streaming service to another streaming service. Maybe not the made for Netflix movies, but like some of these older movies. Let's say Jaws. It might be on Amazon this time, and then they lease it out to HBO Max, and then lease it back to Netflix. And like I said before, everybody doesn't have all these channels. As much as you like to believe it, everybody doesn't have Amazon. And then every studio has its own streaming channel. A lot of these smaller ones, like Tubi and Encore, they all have them now. And now Turner Classic, and now you have to have all these channels in order to see all this, and everybody's going to go, well, I'm just going to keep one, and that's just going to be it. See, and that's another thing. That's another problem. And then the sports, they're starting to get on some of these streaming channels. I remember last year, some of these NFL playoff games, they were on Amazon. Like I said, everybody doesn't have Amazon. I know you don't believe that, but everybody doesn't have Amazon. And like NASCAR, their last 10 races have been on Amazon. See, they're hurting your own product. And we're not just going to talk about some of the problems. We're going to talk about some possible solutions. A good solution would be to lock down the prices. I know it's a business and you got to make money, but they need to have the prices locked down for at least, I would say, a minimum of 3 years. Don't just start jacking up the prices 3 or 4 times in one calendar year. That's another thing that's causing people to just let it go. And some of these smaller channels, like Tubi, and Discovery and such, they need to start leasing their programming down to the 3 big ones. Lease some of those TV shows or movies to Netflix. Lease some of those to HBO Max. You don't need a streaming channel. You're not big enough. You don't have a big enough film category. So just lease the programs off to some of these other bigger streaming services, and then that way you can make money at the same time, but I having to carry the whole channel. Another thing they need to do is offer some sort of viewer incentive. Give people like this, I think this would work right here, early access. Let's say there's a new Disney movie coming out. They should be able to send you a code on your phone and your email, and you should be able to go to the movies. Let's say the movie premieres Thursday. You should have early access and go to it Tuesday. That, I think, if they did that, that would offer the few people who don't have some of these streaming channels, to get that streaming channel. And not only that, but that would help the movie business go right back up to what it has been in the past. But overall, do I think the streaming is dead? No. Streaming is never going away. I'm going to tell you what is dead. It's cable TV. That's dead. No, it's not going to go anywhere. Now, the price is going to go up, and people are going to release some channels, and there'll be a few people that come along and gain some, but we're never going back to cable TV, never, because you're able to choose what comes into your house instead of paying all this money and having 45, 50, 100 channels and really only watching 3. This is KDS Reviews, and KDS Reviews is seen every Wednesday and every Sunday. If you like this type of content, then like, subscribe, and share. What would you do to help streaming get bigger and bigger and bigger? This is Katie's Reviews, and I will see you in the next video.